Hello and welcome to Charlie's Collectible Show. We are here in Stone Mountain, Georgia for the Lorcana 8K. I'm SirAshtown, and joining with me today is Jebas from Ink Thieves. How you doing, Jebas?
Oh, I'm doing great.
It's great to be here today at Charlie's Collectible Show here in Stone Mountain, Georgia. They have over 215 players, meaning this tournament is going to be larger than an 8K tournament. They haven't announced what size it's going to be, but it is going to be increased for that prize support for the players. Really excited to see today's tournament as we get to see a little hint of what we might find out is the meta for NA Continentals. Really excited to see from the EU Continentals kind of the results, as this is kind of one of the largest tournaments since that tournament. So we're going to be live here in round 2. Really excited to see these players today. Jebas, how's everything been so far here today at the tournament and the venue?
You know, it's great. There's tons of people here. The show's great. Lots of stuff to see. Tons of vendors. It's going to be a really exciting day for the rest of it.
If you haven't been here to Charlie's Collectible Show before, it is like an anime convention every weekend. They have tons of cosplay, tons of just anime figurines, items. It's a great place to come on a weekly basis for any of your anime or gaming conventional needs. Really excited to be here. We have tons of exciting news as far as prize supports and things that we're going to be offering the players. Let's go ahead and jump on in over into round 2, match 1. He is playing his infamous Ruby Amethyst, piloting against SAMEYOLOo, piloting a Emerald Amethyst list.
Looks like we're on turn 2. Looks like Kendall probably has already taken the first 2 turns, so likely they were on the play.
Now, this Ruby Amethyst list that we see with Kendall, he has some tech that we haven't seen in too many Ruby Amethyst lists yet. I'll leave that up for hopefully later on in this match. But he has been tuning this list with his team over there at Labyrinth. Really excited to see so many of them here today. I know we have Xenialos, we have Logan, I even like Beta Camio's here. I know he's not part of Team Labyrinth, but several well-known players. Excited to see them here today at today's tournament. Now, some of these Emerald Amethyst lists are pretty aggressive in the sense that they get these early turns to try to use these Cursed Merfolks to quest in. Getting a challenge here off from NOIMNOT, able to discard a card and wants to try to gain that lore early while also bouncing some of NOIMNOT's effective cards that will prevent him from being able to gain that lore.
Now, what is that card that the Emerald Amethyst player ran out here? Now, it looks like it's an alt art. Is that one of the ones from the D23 set, I suspect?
I have not seen that artwork before.
Let me take a look here.
And there's a Cloud Kicker, which is one of those cards that you want to see that I was just saying earlier really helps you be able to bounce some of those problem cards like Flynn in front of me, which would have been gaining NOIMNOT very easily in his list. 3 lore a turn for free. Now, Ruby Amethyst doing what Ruby Amethyst does, playing rabbits. I'm sure we're going to see it bounce here a couple times in this matchup. Once these Ruby Amethyst lists take off like this, it's hard for Emerald Amethyst to really catch up on the board if they can't handle those targets that NOIMNOT has that are able to quest for 2, and then eventually getting into the genies that we know that many Amethyst players are playing.
So that's the Maleficent Staff. That's the whenever one of your opponent's characters' items or locations is returned to their hand from play, gain 1 lore. So that would be where the additional lore was gained once that Cloud Kicker was played and bounced the frenemy.
Let's see if we can't get that card on you for the screen to see. There it is.
Yeah, and this is just the alternate art from the D23 promos, I do believe.
Wow, that's a really clean looking card. Great to see players who like to bling out their lists, like NOIMNOT here, who does have, I want to say, every single card in his deck foiled out or enchanted. Really cool to see Sam playing with that D23 version.
Yes, absolutely.
No, I'm not here at 9. He has that Sisu able to quest in for 2 every time. Its power is pretty big, equal to the number of cards in his opponent's hand. Not an easy target to be bounced by any of Sam's cards. Really, this Sisu is just going to be able to quest out quite a bit, not worried about what's challenging into it.
Okay, Singing Friends, draw 2 cards.
And again, Ruby Amethyst doing what it does, using rabbits to sing this great card to even draw more cards off of it.
Looks like Kendall's continuing the aggression here, using the Medusa to take out that Cursed Merfolk without necessarily allowing it to gain any lore here, and then going up to 11. So now we're 11 to 5 on lore, with quite a bit of pressure actually in play here.
Thankfully, on Sam's side of the board, that goat is a great challenger with that 4 power.
So Ursula takes out the Be Prepared, which doesn't really change much in the game, given that NOIMNOT is quite a bit ahead here on board right now. Likely that Be Prepared wasn't going to be coming out anytime soon anyway.
Yeah, NOIMNOT doing a great job here, really having a board state that's hard to answer by Sam. Able to take out the Sisu. They would trade.
Alright, should gain a lore off of that here, yep.
Yeah, that goat was a great answer by Sam into that Sisu, just having that 4 power. Unfortunately for Sam, did trade due to the number of cards in his hand. And talk about another great card that really increases the power of your characters with Merlin Crab. Wasn't able to challenge into anything though the turn it came out.
I've been corrected. The Maleficent Staff is actually, that's just the Enchanted, which it looks great on the stream here as far as the really showing off how shiny those Enchanteds actually are.
Gosh, I thought that was a D23. Yeah, the camera did pick up the Enchanted foiling well.
Alright, Goat plus Quest takes us up to 14 for Kendall.
And this is, again, classic Ruby Amethyst, the goat being a great kind of end game as we get closer to the end. You see the goat come out, gonna be able to quest, possibly gonna be able to bounce it with things like Snake and Fox, getting extra lore, replaying it. You start seeing Ruby Amethyst get up to 16 lore, and you know the goat comes out. It is very close to the end game.
Looks like we've got the large Clarabelle and just a Fox in hand for SAMEYOLOo here. More than likely gonna need to trade off some cards here just to get a little bit of lore off the table. Looks like just taking out the rabbit directly. Maybe we're gonna run out the Fox just to trade with the Medusa here. Could actually use the Ursula to do the trade if we bounce the crab, giving the Ursula then the challenger. It's more than likely what they're thinking about doing.
And good call right there, Jebas, with the bouncing of the Merlin Crab. Didn't need it necessarily with the challenge. Even could have put it on the Ursula to challenge in instead of using it on the Fox to just trade.
It's possible that they didn't see the line. It's okay, they cleaned up the board a little bit, so it's just the goat putting on some pressure, which is still problematic, obviously, given that they're already at 14. Inking the Brawl and then just running out the big Sisu takes out the Ursula. So we do see the decision not to leverage the Fox being in play and to collect that one lore coming back to bite us a little bit here. Draw a card with the rabbit. This one looks like it's probably going to be over for SAMEYOLOo here. Unfortunately, the Sisu is plus the goat is just going to get us up to 19, and then the goat is most assuredly going to be lethal here.
Yeah, just Sisu not only having an amazing ability, just able to clear the board of anything 2 or less, which in Emerald Amethyst tends to be a lot of cards, a lot of characters, but also as a quester for 3, like you were saying, Jebas, it really just, if it's able to quest, it gains you pretty quick.
Yeah, it goes straight up to 19, and given that Emerald Amethyst does not have the ability to gain 13 lore with just 2 already in play, it's going to be pretty rough here.
And here's a bell. This card has become more popular as we've seen from the EU Continentals, just able to shift some damage onto other genies to try to take them out, or even just other troublesome characters. And it's a 4/4 that quests for 2, so even if Sam was able to play something around the Sisu or the Goat, he at least had the bell to be able to clean up the match.
That's a prime example this game, I think, of Ruby Amethyst being on the play versus on the draw. They sort of had the action pretty much from the get-go. Basically just always having the ability to put on the pressure. And the Emerald Amethyst deck really is trying to have a similar strategy, just leveraging the Emerald cards instead of the Ruby cards. To be a little bit more aggressive with like the Curse Merfolk and things like that, like the Clarabelle towards the end game. So the play draw matters a lot in these matchups, and you can kind of see that here.
And Clarabelle, especially in this matchup, there can be a point in time in which these Ruby Amethyst lists have a ton of cards in hand, really helping you steamroll because you all of a sudden have a no hand to a full hand, all those resources just able to play out and bounce and hopefully answer all the things that Ruby Amethyst is trying to do before it's too late in that 16 lore kind of endgame stage where they're playing goats. Clarabelle can be a great card if you're able to get it out at an effective time within the game.
Alright, so we're going to go to game 2 here. I'm going to assume that our Emerald Amethyst player here is going to choose to be on the play this round. Now, one of the things that generally you're going to want to start off with in a deck like this is leading off on something like the Curse Merfolk to start putting on pressure, into something potentially like Bonsai if they're running it, or just another 2-drop that allows you to continue pushing lore. You want to get the early aggression on before you eventually pivot into sort of that mid-game with like your Clarabelles and the general like Amethyst with Rabbits and Bounce. So we shall see how they end up doing that. Given that they have the Maleficent's staff in the deck, they likely have a little bit higher emphasis on bounce than normal, which does give them a bit higher strategy for aggression and the ability to close out the game a little bit better. So we'll see how this plays out.
Yeah, even having that staff out early in that last matchup, it was gaining Sam quite a bit of lore because we saw him bouncing some things during the match. Not as much as normal. Maybe NOIMNOT was playing around that a little bit, but even then, I don't think it helped necessarily during that match due to the way that NOIMNOT was maneuvering.
It is a pretty low tempo card, which on the draw really ends up becoming more of a problem, given that yes, they were able to run out the Maleficent staff and gain a few lore off of it, but it didn't really remove anything from the board. It didn't add any additional, board presence for themselves either. When you're on the play, you can afford to sort of sneak that in and use it to gain 2 or 3 lore throughout the course of the game while you're continuing to apply pressure. But when you're on the back foot, it does not necessarily help you a whole lot there. There's always cards that have sort of been like this, Sorcerer Spellbook, Maleficent Staff, have a very similar game plan, which is that when you're ahead, it's really great. When you're behind, sometimes not so much.
I was trying to think in instances with Maleficent Staff where it could be incredibly powerful, and maybe in the aggro matchups where you're going to be bouncing almost every single card that your opponent may be playing because they're all 2 or less. So your Kick Cloud Kickers, any of the cards you have that are bouncing your opponent's stuff is going to hit almost every time. But in this matchup, when NOIMNOT can play around it, he's got Sisu, other cards, it can be tough.
I wonder if there's additional bounce in their list overall, other than just the Cloud Kickers, to be able to take advantage of it.
Well, here we are going into round 2, game 2 of today's tournament. We're here live at Charlie's Collectible Show in Stone Mountain, Georgia for their 8K Lorcana tournament. We have over 215 players in today's tournament. Really happy to see kind of how this tournament's playing out so far. Again, if you miss any of today's rounds, you can head on over to 20lore.pro's YouTube, and we'll have those all up later on this week. We're currently offering today's tournament in several different languages to include Chinese, French, English, and Japanese, German. So if you want to watch in any of those languages, if those are your native tongue, your heart language, you can head on over to the Discord, into the item description, or to the Twitch, YouTube description, wherever you may be watching. You can find those links and watch the stream in those languages at your convenience. So here we are going into game 2 of round 2.
And just like I had sort of described, a pretty good start from the Emerald Amethyst with the Curse Merfolk into Bonsai. Now, it's entirely possible that we, as the Ruby Amethyst player, are going to want to use the Magic Broom to take the Curse Merfolk off the table, but it will cost us a discard. But it's hard to let them just quest for 2 for a bunch of turns in a row.
And it looks like that's what he decided to.
Trying to figure out what discard here. Looks like a Maui.
Man, this Bonsai, strong card. I mean, 2-drop on Inkable, 3/2, quest for 2. Really strong here, early game, able to get him some lore. He's already at 2 to NOIMNOT 0. And there's a great challenger. Will still trade, though, with the Bonsai.
And this is one of the troubles with Snake versus Bonsai in these situations. Bonsai being uninkable is really the big cost of it, but Snake requiring him to bounce an additional card off the table really puts us pretty close to parity, except that the Emerald Amethyst is gaining lore. We're questing. We're actually pushing the advantage of being on the play here. So as long as we can continue doing that, it's going to be pretty tough for the Ruby Amethyst player to actually keep up with this.
Here's a peek at NOIMNOT's hand off of that Ursula.
So no songs.
Does have the Elsa 5th Spirit. I love that card. Really able to just tap down, rush in, challenge when you need to, or allow another strong character on your board to challenge in.
Pretty aggressive run out, an additional Curse Merfolk. So there's quite a bit of lore being pressed on the table here. Probably going to see a trade into Brawl, likely on the Curse Merfolk. It's going to cut down on the amount of pressure that we're actually working with here. Either that or we're going to run out a couple of 1-drops here.
So again, here at Charlie's Collectible Show in Stone Mountain, Georgia, we are here in round 2. We have over 215 players, and tomorrow, Sunday morning, we're going to be doing the Cut the Top 8. We'll have the Top 8 coverage for you tomorrow morning. Really excited to see kind of who makes it, and if our 20 Lore Pro, NOIMNOT, the Community Pro, will make it all the way.
So deciding to ink the Elsa and just play 2 1-drops, as opposed to using the Brawl, maybe saving it for something like an Ursula or another more problematic card than just the Curse Merfolk. Given that we're running a little bit lower on resources, maybe we can try to get the Curse Merfolk off the table without that discard.
I'm trying to think too. I know they are playing some number, but the Ruby Amethyst playing Merlin Crab could help the challenging power of Broom to take out something that's a lot bigger than itself, that's still questing in right here, as Sam is getting in for quite a bit of lore.
Alright, we see the new set 6 card, the White Rose. This is in a similar vein to the classic Goat for Amethyst. When it enters play, you get to gain a lore here. So able to gain another 4, puts us all the way up to 8 for the Emerald Amethyst.
Yeah, something nice playing 8 goats, essentially. Not quite a goat, but in the sense that it is, especially when you're trying to outrace right here, like Sam is doing. Putting NOIMNOT on the back burner here with his 0 lore, but is trying to draw and get to that higher ink count to play those higher characters.
Yeah, sacrifice our Chernobog's followers to draw cards that then we can discard the Be Prepared that we had actually picked up a few turns earlier. Since it doesn't look like this is going to be a Be Prepared game, both players a little bit lower on resources. Run out a goat here, and sacrificing the broom to also pick up another card. So the goat actually just gives us a bit larger body, perhaps to take out the Ursula, with the ability to still threaten the Rose the following turn.
Now, I think that's a genie that we see in SAMEYOLOo's hand. That card really has been great. Able to draw, able to have an evasive character on the board to quest with.
Yeah, I would say that Genie is probably one of the best cards coming out of Set 6 here, especially based on the results that we saw out of the EU Continentals last weekend. Really being a card that allows you to play it, stay up on resources, and puts a lot of pressure on an evasive 2-quester with a reasonable body at 2/4. This is likely what we were trying to save that brawl for, is the Genies, actually. Given that we didn't really have a lot of other answers for it, we do see the goat taking out the Ursula, which is to be expected, then it can still threaten the White Rose the following turn, and here we see the brawl taking out the Genie. So this sort of takes back that loss of being on the draw here. This is the pivotal point in the game, where now we have a sizable amount of ink in play, and we've stymied the early aggression as the RP player. This is the spot, and they're at 10 lore, so that actually isn't terrible. So it looks like they drew a big Clarabelle, deciding to ink the kit Cloud Kicker here so that we can actually play it the following turn if we draw an inkable. That would allow quite a bit of catch-up here, for sure. Especially since we got rid of the Be Prepared earlier.
Well, NOIMNOT in kind playing his own Genie. And talk about just knowing when to play your cards. NOIMNOT had the brawl, chose to save it for a larger threat on SAMEYOLOo's side of the board, which was his Genie. Now he's able to draw a card and quest for 2 each turn, not having a whole lot really to challenge it besides K Cloud Kicker or another evasive character, I think, from SAMEYOLOo.
Now, NOIMNOT did decide to use the goat to take out the White Rose, as I kind of expected. Takes out the Ursula, takes out the Rose. Even though it's over a couple of turns, it's, still 1 for 2. Now, that looks like it was a Bonsai, perhaps. It'd be an unfortunate draw. Yeah, looks like it was an uninkable. So this is the other side of the Bonsai coin, which is we were really looking for an inkable in that spot to be able to play Clarabelle. Clarabelle would have drawn, I believe, 2 extra cards at the end of turn, and then been a sizable enough body to catch us up. Instead, we're just running out this Bonsai, which unfortunately looks a little embarrassing here.
Oh, and there is a Maui's Fishhook getting inked from Kindle. Not sure how many of those he's playing, but that's a spicy card in this list.
Picks up another 7-drop here. Luckily inkable this time. So it's going to have to decide if we want to run out the Clarabelle. Looks like we do. So inks Ursula, plays Clarabelle here. Decides to just quest.
I like the Clarabelle here because trying to find more outs is really going to be what Sam needs to do before NOIMNOT, as he's doing currently, is establishing a strong board state.
So I would suspect this Genie is going to take out the Bonsai. I'm going to use Friends with the Fox to get a little bit of cards first. Maybe to see if we have an answer for this Clarabelle. Because honestly, in this spot, a Be Prepared wouldn't even be terrible.
And talk about a great turn from NOIMNOT. I mean, he's able to play out the Genie, or last turn, play out the Genie, quested with it, bounced it, There's a Be Prep, just like you said, Jebas.
All right, there's the Be Prepared. So, given all the extra card draw, I was able to find another copy of Be Prepared, and while it is a fairly even trade, it is very difficult to leave that Clarabelle in play, especially with so many cards in hand, because you're just going to allow your opponent to draw out, and now it becomes a pretty even resource battle to catch back up on the board. So it is still a good spot for the Emerald Amethyst player, given that Be Prepared is such a low tempo card, given that we essentially used our entire turn to gain a little bit of lore and then just pass with nothing on board. We now just have to be on, respond to what our opponent is doing for a little bit, and hopefully we, are able to keep playing catch up as the red-purple player here. But there are quite a few kind of direct lore gain cards, Go-Go Tamago, the White Rose, and Goat, that if we need reach, Emerald Amethyst definitely has a lot more reach than most decks, I would say.
And we did see a Go-Go in Sam's hand, so he does have some cards. The one Clarabelle turn did help him a little bit to have that resource card draw, but you would hope with the follow-up play that he had of the Genie White Rose that he'd be able to sustain a little bit longer, but wasn't able to here due to the Madame Medusa.
We're Medusing again to get rid of the White Rose here.
And let's talk about strong plays in Ruby Amethyst, just able to recur the cards exactly that you want to without utilizing the resources in your hand. You already have the knowledge that you are playing Madame Medusa. It's on the board, bouncing it, replaying it, not giving any more information to your opponent while also taking out their characters.
So a line that I would actually like from the Emerald Amethyst, given what they have in their hand, is playing out probably one of these Tamagos. Not sure if I would have necessarily played the Cloud Kicker. I don't think it's terrible here either. But playing out a Tamago gives them an evasive threat as well. But I certainly would want to quest with the Fox to get us up to 17.
We're at 8 to 16 here. Sam is fighting every little bit to gain as much lore as he can.
So, looking at Cloud Kicker here, it does just say opposing character, so we don't have to bounce itself. And then we do end up running out of Tamago. Since we have a second one in hand, this puts us up to 17, so as long as any of our characters are able to quest, we're likely going to be in a pretty winning position here, given that the way that the board is shaped up here, we have a little bit of extra reach in the evasive character. Alright, sings another friends, draw a couple more cards.
Up to 17.
Looks like there's a brawl, maybe. Well, just another Fox here. Fox trade with Fox, likely taking out the Tamago with the Medusa again here. Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
No, I think I saw Be Prep in NOIMNOT's hand. Chose instead to use his cards in a way in which, when he needs it, he can use it, while still making sure he's not getting that much lore on Sam's side of the board.
So we do have an interesting line that we can take here in the Emerald Amethyst. We can actually attack into the snake with the Cloud Kicker. Now it does take out our own Cloud Kicker and just put 2 damage on the snake. Then we can use Tamago to actually go up to 19. Which then, since we had the staff as a draw off the top, we could have, with any bounce or any immediate lore gain, actually been in a good spot here. Now, I might like this better. It does give us a similar line. So, Kendall doesn't know that we have Tamago in hand, right? And they can't really just leave the Cloud Kicker alive either. So this looks like we're going to our next game here, because that Tamago is going to be able to gain 2 more lore.
Yeah, I think that's it right there with that Go-Go Tamago.
All right, that takes that game.
Sam really did utilize all the cards early on, the Bonsais, the Curse Merfolk, the Clay Cloud Kickers, in order to gain as much as possible.
So the staff, unfortunately, didn't gain any lore on its own this game. It did threaten the ability to close out the game, but with the line that we took to just quest, force our opponent to make the trade to get the damage on the character, the second Tamago in hand was able to close, so...
Yeah, that Go-Go really showing why it has really been a great card in these Emerald Amethyst lists, just allowing you to pay a little extra and you're going to gain lore equal to the damage on your opponent's characters. So in this case, when Sam's at 18, 2 damage means you're up to 20.
Yeah, having all these cards with reach between the direct lore gain of, you know, the Maleficent Staff on occasion, the Goat, which is the classic, the White Rose now, and Go-Go Tamago. I mean, that's a lot of direct lore gain that doesn't really worry too much about your opponent at all.
We want to thank everyone so much for joining us here today at Charlie's Collectible Shows for their Lorcana 8K. We're here with 20 Lore Pro live. There's over 215 players in today's tournament. If you're looking at those mats that are there on the camera, they look gorgeous. Those are the playmats that are going to be prize support for the top 4 in today's tournament. We want to thank GFQ Underground for printing today's mats. They did a great job printing those mats. They look amazing. And the artist over at Diamond Ink Apparel, their artist Miguel made the artwork for today's playmats. If you want to get your artwork made for any t-shirts or playmats, head on over to Diamond Ink Apparel, where they do the artwork in addition to the t-shirts without the extra charge. If you want to get your own custom playmats printed, head on over to gfqunderground.com.
Alright, so it looks like NOIMNOT sending back about 5, about the same amount from Emerald Amethyst here, so this time it'll be red-purple on the play, which this is a matchup that I would say the play draw matters quite a bit more than most. Generally, I would say that being on the play is where you want to be a lot of times in these formats, but certain matchups it matters a lot less. You know, for example, red-blue generally in some of the mid-rangey matchups doesn't care quite as much because it just, you know, ramps and draws extra cards, makes it not matter. But in these sort of, you know, want to curve out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sort of matchups, being the first one to have that initiative really does matter a lot. And, you know, Curse Merfolk on the draw, certainly not as exciting as when you're on the play. Alright, leading off with a 1-drop here, not a big surprise. This is the Magic Broom, which has become more and more popular in these decks because it's actually a 1-2, so it has the ability to survive an attack and then still get the card out of it. Then a Curse Merfolk, so a little bit more aggression from the other side, a little less actual board presence, however. Ink's a Snake. Into a Frenemy, so a pretty aggressive start, especially on the play here.
Yeah, Flynn here really in Ruby Amethyst tends to, in this matchup, have the strongest character on board. Gaining that free lore.
Now Bonsai does look like they is a character that's able to sort of bully that strategy a bit. Given that there's not many outside of, say, Fox, perhaps, you know, Maui, once they get a little bit further into the game, but at this point in the game, there's not a ton that can be bigger than the Bonsai as far as strength, at least not out of red-purple. Does take out the Curse Merfolk and gets rid of an early Be Prepared. Not really that surprising either. Be Prepared is kind of embarrassing until much later in the game. Now here's one of the few cards that, based on hand size, can be bigger than the Bonsai with the hand Sisu here. So it looks like it's, what, 6, 7 cards in their hand.
Oh, quite a bit. This Sisu is pretty large, able to really challenge into anything.
Looks like it should be 6. So they ink, play something. It will still be larger than that bonsai. So unless they're able to deal with this frenemy right now, it's gonna be gaining 3 lore.
Well, there's that Kit Cloud clicker on the board here. Facing down this Sisu, we see he decides to quest in with the Bonsai, gaining 2, going up to 4 lore. Have a great challenger here in the Sisu, but honestly, even questing out, not a bad option. Does decide to challenge.
Takes out that Bonsai. So we've sort of moved past the frenemy stage of the game. The Emerald Amethyst was able to navigate very well to make it so that frenemy didn't gain that 3 extra lore, 6 extra lore. That can be disastrous in games like this. And going Bonsai into Kit really just took all the steam out of that card. So it got inked, right, turned into a goat instead, which I think is probably a much more useful line.
I believe we see an Elsa 5th Spirit on SAMEYOLO's side in his hand. That'll be a card that we know is going to come up later on, especially when we start seeing opposing genies.
I would suspect a trade-off with the Kit and the Sisu here. Possibly using like a Go-Go Tamago to gain 3 lore, maybe, if they've got one in hand.
Yeah, talk about a great time to play Go-Go. It's free lore that you want to have.
Ooh, an interesting decision. It's possible that they do have a Go-Go. They decide not to actually take the trade here and just leave the Sisu and play it with the 3 damage on it. I'm not sure if I like that, given that you're trading 2 for 1, but it could allow you to use the Elsa 5th Spirit to just eat the Sisu without necessarily losing your card. So we'll see how it works out, especially now that we have an opposing goat. We can kind of threaten to clear up the board a little bit too.
I looked away for just a second. It looked like he did ink the Go-Go, is that right? Maybe he might have another one in hand?
Could be a line that they're not even worried about. Given that we have the 5th Spirit, and once we ink and then play another card, it will be, the Sisu should be small enough that we could actually just take it out without losing our card. So that is probably what they're considering. And it could be that they're not just that worried about a Sisu on its own. Ooh, a 5th Spirit from the other side.
Oh no. Yeah, 5th Spirit really doing so much work for these Amethyst lists. Any of them really, just having a challenge that you're not expecting.
I would expect the Sisu to actually take out the goat here as opposed to the goat from Kendall. But I could be surprised. Alright, goat for goat, both go up 1. Probably quest for 2 with the Sisu here. And at this point, having damage on your characters kind of doesn't matter. We already have damage on the characters, so spreading it out really doesn't change much as far as the Go-Go math. And they're only at 7, so Go-Go on its own is not as big of a problem now as it was in the last game.
Yeah, questing with Sisu really, it is 2 more lore on the board for NOIMNOT. It does try to keep you into the race that we saw that SAMEYOLOo was able to do during the last game. Trying to keep up with him and pace him.
Yeah, pushing to just have more lore pips on the board is likely the decision there. Especially because there's only a finite amount of characters with haste coming out of... Sorry, not haste. Rush. Coming out of the Emerald Amethyst here. Fox being one of them, but without any characters on board, Fox is a little less valuable. Another 5th Spirit, another goat in NOIMNOT's hand, so that's a pretty stacked hand. We just play Ursula directly. Now, I did see the 7-drop Ursula get drawn last turn, so I would suspect that the idea was that we're trying to shift it out, but if that additional Elsa gets played and this Ursula gets taken out, it's not looking good for Emerald Amethyst here.
I wonder if NOIMNOT would think of that line to say, I know he's playing the Ursula 7-drop because we saw the ink, this character being inked during the last game, to think, to prevent that, I need to use the 5th spirit to get in there, but we'll see what he thinks. I don't think I would have the insight to think about that play.
Well, Elsa got inked here, so likely not on the radar. We just play the goat, probably to put more pressure on. I'm just going to quest with everything, I would imagine.
I believe SAMEYOLOo has 2 cards in hand, so that wouldn't be an unreasonable thought to not even think of that play, or not to be too worried about it.
Normally you wouldn't think of this Ursula as much of a threat, though the Sisu is vulnerable to that crackback here. Quester 1 with the Elsa, maybe just a pass?
Yeah, it's a tough call here because, just like you were saying, Jebas, that Sisu is vulnerable, but it would get you up to 9, and it's already at 3, meaning that it's going to end up either being bounced due to the low cards in Sam's hand. Probably not even bounced, because then you would just recover it, but it's not doing a whole lot right now in the form of challenging.
Decides to try and protect their Sisu as opposed to allowing it to be vulnerable. This is respecting the Ursula a little bit, because now the Ursula has nothing that it can actually challenge. So the best that they're going to be able to do in this spot is shift the Ursula out and quest, go to 10. Not really much else beyond that, because there's nothing to challenge here at all.
I want to give a shout out to Cruzito Gaming. Cruz has been a long-time member of the 20 Lore Pro community for gifting some subs on Twitch. Thank you so much, Cruz, for doing that. We appreciate you and hope to see you soon. Glad to always see you playing Lorcana when you come. There is the Ursula.
Yeah, so there's the Ursula shift and just going up to 10 here, but we're likely in a position where that doesn't matter as much. Do we have enough power? Looks like if we kind of bump everything into that Ursula that we've got, we can take it off the board.
Does decide to clean up.
Which makes sense to me. I mean, the Ursula is certainly a much more impactful card on the board than the other ones that we were working with here. We still have the rabbit, and we get to keep our Elsa, so not too bad of a position to be in, I would say, even after the loss. A genie from SAMEYOLOo.
He's only at 5 ink, now 6.
Genie to Bonsai is a lot of lore pressure.
I was thinking about Clarabelle being a nice follow-up play here, possibly, with the number of cards in NOIMNOT's hand, but not quite able to play that card in the range yet due to your ink count.
Genie gets taken out by Medusa. That's pretty common for Genie at this point in the game, I would say. Gaining another 2, so Ruby Amethyst finally on the board ahead of the Emerald Amethyst player here.
I wonder if they've increased some of these players in Ruby Amethyst, the number of Medusas they're playing, due to the fact that it can take out opposing genies, which are so troublesome.
I think, given that the Medusa is uninkable, makes it a little harder to include more. That's why you're starting to see additional cards like the Maui's Fishhook as a way of being able to sort of try and combat the opposing genies in sort of those evasive battles. This runs out the Elsa to get a little bit more lore pressure here, not using the rush or the ability, which makes sense given that their draw was the Shunabog followers here. Likely singing Friends, yep.
Great character to sing Friends with.
Absolutely.
I think at this point we can all say that Friends on the Other Side is most likely sung not by the character in the movie, but by Merlin Rabbit.
That's a rough one. So taking out the
goodness.
Bonsai removes the only three strength character. Big Sisu, I would assume, is probably a one of, coming down to really take out 2 cards and wrap this up a little bit, I would say. Again, this is very reminiscent of our first round. First game of this round. Big Sisu comes down and sort of just cleans house.
Yeah, Big Sisu, great card. It, like you said, a one of, but Kindle has really been drawing a lot this match. So the odds of him finding it were higher and higher the more he drew. So not quite luck, I'd say, but it is skill based in the sense that he's drawing so much to where you will find your one of eventually. Flips of the top card, that is the game here, the match in round 2. Our community pro, NOIMNOT, taking round 2 over Amethyst Emerald SAMEYOLOo.
Yeah, Ruby Amethyst always being the sort of having cards bully, always being able to cycle additional cards, draw additional cards, all basically throughout the whole game, being able to find those one-ofs a lot more frequently than most decks. Really makes those kind of one-of fun-ofs a lot stronger. So
that was exciting. Round 2 here in today's tournament at Charlie's Collectible Show. We want to thank everyone so much for coming here today. We're excited to be at Charlie's Collectible Show for their 8K, which has over 218 players. It's been a great day so far. We will have all of these rounds available for you on Twitch after today's tournament. It'll be part of the VOD. It'll be on YouTube, and it'll be edited for your viewing convenience next week. Again, if you want to view this tournament in any other language, we have Chinese, French, German, all live right now. With the video description, you can click those links and go to those streams if you'd like to watch it in those languages. Again, thank you all so much for joining us here today. We're going to be getting ready for round 3, doing some player interviews, maybe even some deck techs later on. But again, thank you all so much. Thank you, Jebas, for joining us today.
absolutely.
We're really glad to be here, and we will see y'all here in round 3 just in a little bit.